Hi, I'm Ron, and I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite dishes today. That is the seafood pasta dish. One of the things I'd like to point out is that good food is what you like, not necessarily what people tell you. The right cutlery to use is whatever you like. I've often heard from people the only way to eat a steak, oh, you have to cook it this way. Good food is what you like to eat. And what I'm going to show you today is one of the simplest ways of making an absolutely delicious dish that I make for special people. So I'm going to do it in 4 stages. I'm going to start by sauteing the vegetables for the sauce. The second will be making the actual sauce with wine, chicken stock, and tomato sauce. Then I'll put the seafood on it, and then we'll make the spaghetti and serve it. So welcome to my kitchen, my pride and joy. When I bought this house, that was one of the most important things. I grew up in a one-ass kitchen in New York City in an apartment on the 7th floor, and I've never figured out how my mother and my aunts could make such sumptuous meals in such a small place. So let's get started. I simply want to use a pan, semi-deep pan with a lid. I could use one of my La Crusette things, but that would simply be impressive as a pot. The fact is, most of us have ordinary cookware. So let's get started. I'm going to make a sauce which starts, and this is a Mediterranean dish. Mediterranean basically is olive oil, and then you put garlic and other things in, slow saute it, and later add whatever sauce and spices you want. So let's start with, as we say in Italy, a little bit of oil. You know, like Mama Gina says, what you really do is just cover the bottom of the pan. Now, one thing about olive oil, they always tell you to use extra virgin oil, which is a good idea. But it has to be stored in a dark bottle in a cool place. Light destroys olive oil. So now I'm going to turn on the stove to medium high, and I'm going to start preparing the vegetables. And if you see here, we have garlic, bay leaves, a red pepper. I'm only using it to make it sweet. If you don't like a sweet sauce, leave it out. An onion, a carrot, celery, parsley, and slivered almonds. Slivered almonds is one of the most important things to put in your food, and most Westerners are unaware of it. In Middle East cooking, they put almonds, walnuts, pistachios in food. And that's a wonderful thing to do. So the first thing we're going to do is prepare the onion. Have a very sharp knife. Don't use a dull knife. You cut it in half, and then we take off, one second, wrong burner. Take off the peel. Now, make sure the bottom is still connected. Don't cut that off. And now with the blade, slide the blade like this. Do not do the American thing of, you'll ruin your knife. And it also makes it difficult, as you see, to keep the onion together. So knives are to be used to slice, not hack. Then you hold it like this and you go, again, use the blade. Next step, you take the onions that you've diced and you put them into the hot oil. And make sure that your oil is not very hot. You want it to saute, not burn. I'm going to take something really important, and that is the nuts. The nuts go in right away because they flavor the oil. It's a really important thing. Use exactly this much. And if you like more, put more. If you don't like nuts or one of your friends or relatives is allergic to nuts, leave them out. It's really up to you. Now we take the garlic. Simple. Smash it. Like that. And then rough chop it. The garlic is not going to make this dish garlicky. That's something you need to know. The garlic, like the onions, are going to cook down and they're going to add a sweetness. That's what they're for. They offer sweetness. Now, where's my spoon? Here it is. And this is the fun part. This is where when I was 6 and 7, I was finally allowed to stir the pot. Now notice there's quite a bit of oil. Don't worry about it. And it's not that the oil will cook out. At the very end, let the pasta sauce sit. The oil will rise to the top. You tilt the pan, and then you take it off. And you don't throw that oil out, you keep it. Because that oil is very flavorful, and you can cook with it again, or you can put it on salad. And now I just take some parsley, exactly this amount, or more or less, depending on what you like. And remember, good food is what you like. Don't let anyone tell you that the only way to eat steak is rare. I can't stomach raw food, that is raw meat. Give this stir. Now remember, you want to slow saute this. If you cook it very quickly, the onion and the garlic will burn and be bitter and not very good. So you want it on a slow simmer. That's the trouble with an electric oven, and why I normally use my gas oven, because that you can turn up and down rather than sliding it on and off. Now, I happen to like a sweet sauce. I learned this in Italy from a really close friend, Mariella. And that was, what surprised me was she used celery, carrot, and a red sweet pepper. The only thing I want to caution you is don't use the top because it can be bitter. What you do with the top is you eat it. So you put about a half a stalk of celery. Look how nice that is. You can't smell it, but I can. Look at how beautiful that looks. And again, any kind of cooking, whether it's Indian, Thai, Middle East, Italian, makes no difference. First, you slow cook what's going to be in the sauce. Now I'm going to put carrot. Why? Because I like it. When I make a seafood sauce, I like it to be naturally sweet. Again, I slice the carrot. Nothing fancy, just dice the carrot. Again, you're not going to have carrot. You're just going to taste a slight sweetness. And I learned this in Morocco. Take some, slice off some of the red sweet bell pepper. Slice it, watching your fingers, and then you dice it. Now, as you watch cooking shows on TV, they have a glass of wine and they drink the wine while they do it. I don't drink wine, but I like to eat. So what I do is, any little thing that gets left over goes into the mouth. Now this is pretty much ready to just let saute slowly. And then I add salt. And you can use kosherizing salt, or you can do this. See, magic cooking. Okay, now what is kosherizing salt? It's funny, it is not kosher salt. I wish people learned a little bit more about it. I was raised with Orthodox Jews as my grandparents, so everybody cooked kosher. Salt is used to make meat kosher. After an animal is killed and cut up, it has to be salted to take out blood. No blood can be eaten in Judaism. All blood is treif, to the point that when I had a bloody nose in the synagogue, I had to leave. And I suffered from bloody noses. So it's simply granulated differently. It's bigger granules of salt. So when you use it, don't think you're making the food kosher. This is going to be with shrimp and clams. You can't get less kosher than that unless I added ham or bacon. This is not kosher. But again, kosherizing salt has been shortened to kosher salt. With that, we will take a rest, and this will slowly cook. In fact, I'm going to turn it down a little. You want this to really slowly saute and not dry out. Okay, let me make it a little lower. And now we'll just leave it for a while. And I forgot, the only thing else I put in here is I break 2 bay leaves in half. The bay leaves will add a wonderful flavor. And bay leaves are really used a lot in Mediterranean cooking. So now I'm going to let this saute and enjoy myself a little bit, and we'll come back to it in about 15 minutes. I'll pop in and stir it periodically, but you'll be bored watching that. The next thing I'm going to do, because now I'm going to be using wet ingredients, is put on an apron. I'm wearing my favorite purple shirt because I'm always associated with a purple shirt. So this is the Ronnie shirt. Now, here is the simple thing. You put on an apron so you don't get splashed. I have to tie it in the back. Unfortunately, unlike a number of years ago when I could bring it around to the front and tie it, as with some of you, it now only works when it's tied in the back. So anyway, now let's go and make the sauce. This dish that I'm making is actually from the northern part of the Mediterranean. So this is a semi-sweet wine. I'm using my favorite glass measure. You put about this much. I'd say it's about, 2/3 of a cup. If you want 3/4, if you want a whole cup, the thing is you're going to cook it down however winey you want. I prefer it more tomatoey, but do as you like. Now, if you look here, it's ready. See, nothing is burned, and it's been sauteed for about 20 minutes. Now, you take the wine and you just put it in, and then you stir it, and you cook it until you don't smell the alcohol anymore. And now I'm going to let it just sit. I want it to, this will soften the vegetables. Okay, and now we can take a rest. Ragnar. This is Nikolai's pooch, Ragnar. He is a sweet, lovable guy, and he loves to be around the kitchen while I'm cooking. And of course, they were both attracted by the smell. Lada, baby. Lada, who is a little shy of the camera. Lada is half chocolate lab, half Australian Shepherd, and she also likes to bother me when I'm cooking. So we had to let them come into the kitchen, but let me tell you, there are delights. Okay, take a look at the color of the food now. Tell me that doesn't look delicious. And what I do is I go like this just because I like to taste it. It's sweet and tangy. And the nuts add a great deal. Now I'm going to add chicken stock. I'm adding a cup. When I learned this dish in Italy, they put in a bouillon cube, just chicken bouillon. And don't use canned chicken stock because it just has no flavor. If you use canned chicken stock, you need to add bouillon on top of it. I'm using my chicken soup. I made some and it's left over, so I don't have to add. And there's another thing. You don't want to add much salt. And the reason is that the shrimp and the clams will add salt themselves. So I cooked down the wine, and now I added the chicken stock, and later I will add the tomato sauce. Those are the three liquids: wine, stock, and tomato sauce. Now, if we look, this now is ready to go to put in the tomato sauce. Notice it's very soft. So I give it a final stir like this. Notice there's quite a bit of liquid. Don't worry about it. That's all full of flavor. Now, here is what my tomato sauce looks like. It was made in my sink. I took the peels off, as I told you, and then I simply pureed it. Now, this is really sweet. I'm sorry you can't taste it. Look at this. You just take the tomatoes and you cook them down till they're thick. That's all. And then what you do is you if you want to add liquid, you do. If you want it thicker, you cook it thickening. Now I go like this. Uno, duo, and for this amount, trio. This I'll use to make other things, or after I cook it. If I want more, I'll put more. Now comes a wonderful stage. This is, again, the fun part of stirring. This I learned to love when I was a child. My mother and my aunts let me stir because I was old enough. And that was one of the wonderful ways of teaching a child how to do things. If you want them to learn to do something, you say, "No, I'm sorry, Ronald, you're not old enough to do it." And then I would say, "Yes, I am." And you're going to say, "Well, I'm not sure." That's how you get kids to do things they don't want to do. And boy, was I a kid that didn't want to do things that they needed me to. So now we're going to let this cook down. I think I'll add a little bit more sauce. What we're going to do now is let it cook down. And when it gets thick, when most of the liquid is gone, I'm going to add water to it in the same amount that I had the wine. Now, if you look at the pot, notice there's almost no liquid on top. Periodically, while we were resting, I stirred. We want to make sure that it doesn't burn on the bottom. Remember that we're concentrating the flavor. We're concentrating the sugars, and sugars burn. So at this stage, you have to, with any pasta sauce, make sure that it doesn't burn on the bottom. So this has thickened quite a bit. Now, this would be the consistency of a sauce that we would want on our pasta. But what we do, as I learned in Italy, and this is a very important step, is we take some water. Okay, same amount as I put wine. Take this and now do this. This will continue cooking. Now, I've had explanations why. I am not a scientist and I'm not sure I understood it. But this is going to help concentrate the flavors. We'll cook it down again about 10-15 minutes so that it'll have a nice thick consistency. And that's how you make a really good Italian pasta sauce. Remember I said that we were making a seafood pasta. Now, Melissa and Nikolai, my two partners who live with me in the house, do not like mussels. Now, if you'd like mussels in it, you could put mussels, you could put crab, you can put any seafood you want. I happen to like, and we're just celebrating today, we're going to just have what Melissa and Nikolai like, which is shrimp and clams. What I plan with pasta is 4 shrimp and 5 clams per person. And that's what I would normally use if no matter how many people you have. You can always add more. If you want to just have this with nothing else with dinner, add it's what you want. This is what I do with this amount of food. So I will soon put the shrimp and the clams in, and I will put up the linguine. We're going to make the seafood pasta and start with the pasta. You bring the water to a boil, which everybody knows, and then you put in kosher salt. When I was a kid, this was a yellow box with red written on one side in Yiddish, kosher Salz, and on the other side, kosher salt. Now, almost anybody can use kosher salt, and as I said, it just means for kosherizing. So you take about this much salt, put it in the water, because you want to salt the pasta. Now, what we're going to do is take the pasta, which I put somewhere. Ah, there you are. Thank you, Nikolai. I put it on the side. And put in enough for, in this case, 3 people. I am using linguine, and that's because I like linguine. When you go to Italy, they're so particular about which pasta shape goes with which sauce. Luckily, I will not be beheaded for using linguine in this dish, but I had all the lectures on how big, how much pasta, etc. But one thing you need to know, there is a term, pasta asciutta. That means dry pasta. Most Italians do not like, except for certain dishes, fresh pasta. Some Americans think that that's better. It isn't. And notice that you just put the linguine in and it'll settle. I'm going to just make sure they don't stick together. That's a very important step. You don't want them to stick together or to the bottom of the dish. Okay, now what you do is you turn it to simmer, which of course on an electric stove means you gotta wait for the damn thing to stop boiling. Now, I'm going to take my, where'd I put it? My scoop. I just had it, oh, here it is. And put some of the pasta in here. Notice how thick it is. This, I will, after pouring out the pasta and into the sink, I will then put this to keep warm in the oven. So now we have this going here. This will be done in approximately 10 minutes. I'm going to take this bowl with the pasta sauce and put it in the oven to keep it warm, not hot, because you want to have the stuff later. When you put the pasta in, you mix it so it doesn't stick together. And then you start making the seafood. So this should only be in there for a few minutes. It's now time to test the pasta. I cooked it for the proper amount to be al dente. So let's test it. Woo! Okay, it's hot. Perfect. We don't want it overcooked because remember, it's going to sit in the sauce and we want the sauce to absorb a lot of the flavor, the sauce to be absorbed by the pasta. Now, as per Italian tradition, we take a ladle full of the starchy water and put it into the sauce. I was told that that is for the purpose of getting the pasta to stick. I have no idea. I'm not a scientist. But this is something that we do. Now we're going to start getting the sauce ready for the seafood, which should not take very long. We dump the pasta into the sink, into the strainer here. And by the way, my grandmother had this strainer, and my mother got it as a, when my grandmother died, she took it. And when my mother died, I took it. So you are looking at an authentic Brooklyn strainer, including the fact that everything is in the form of a Jewish star. Now I'll go and get the bowl that's being heated out of the oven. Turn it off. It's just been heating. It's not hot. But this is and one thing, do not rinse the pasta. This I learned. You never rinse. I went to do it and I almost had my head handed to me by an Italian guest who taught me how to cook Italian food. Now I take the pasta and put it in here. And now we do this so that the pasta doesn't stick together. And this pasta will absorb a lot of continue cooking and absorb a lot of the sauce itself. Now we let this sit here. And now comes one of my favorite parts, which is putting a little bit, I like a little oregano. I don't cook the oregano much because it loses its flavor over time. And as Melissa likes, we make it arrabbiata. Arrabbiata means it has a little bit of chili, hot chili flakes. Not much. It looks like I'm shaking a lot, but almost nothing comes out. Okay, now we give it a quick stir, and then we put in our, see how nice and thick that is? Now we put the shrimp. And I'm going to turn the heat down. This is cooking too fast. A little bit of schmutz. And these will cook very quickly. And what I do is I said, I make 4 shrimp per person. And now I take 3 bowls because there are 3 of us. I didn't make a large amount of pasta because this is a snack. You can make more pasta per person if you like. These shrimp are almost done. They are done when they turn pink and curl up. And as they cook, they're adding liquid and flavor to the sauce. I will cover it quickly so it doesn't dry out. And now I will apportion the pasta. This is the hard part. Uno. Duo. There you go. Look how lovely. And now I carefully put, as I said, I make, I believe, 4 shrimp per person. Take the clams. We put them in. $15, $16, $17, $18. That means I made 6 per person. Okay, now you spread it out, cover it. The next thing we're going to do is take them out when they open. Don't let them overcook, and don't put them in with the shrimp because you got to do them. They take different amounts of time to cook. So if you're using mussels, all of these, it's really simple. You just put in one at a time. And now, just as a garnish, I happen to like using fresh basil. So here are the small leaves, which I go like this. These are the tastiest and the softest. About 3 minutes have gone by, and let's see if they're open. And do not eat any. Aha! Do not eat any that haven't opened. Now, this is important. To say there are 6 each, so you take them out. Don't let them all cook while you wait for the dish to finish. I think I counted 18, so that means that there are 6 each. This one just opened. 5, 6. Now, that is lovely, and I will cover that with sauce. I could have simply done everything in the big bowl, which is if you want to impress people, but this is my family. I'm not out to impress. I want them to enjoy it. Now, we take this, the ladle, and we take this wonderful sauce, and you go like this. I love it, and this is one of Nikolai's favorite dishes. Don't put it back down on the burner. And now we just take some of this just to make it pretty. Now, Melissa hates Parmesan, and Nikolai loves it. So on Nikolai's and mine, I will put Parmesan cheese. And what makes it taste better is I do it with my fingers. So here is for Nikolai and me. Now tell me that doesn't look wonderful. And if I get it anywhere near Melissa's, she won't eat it. She hates the smell of it. Okay? Guten Appetit, as we say in Yiddish. So this is my Mediterranean seafood pasta with only clams and shrimp, and you can put any seafood you like. I love it. Thank you for watching, and I enjoyed cooking for you.